Hello. Welcome to another episode of the Mindful LCA podcast. We're laughing because I told her to do the intro, and then I'm like, you hesitated one split second, so then how am I gonna do it now?
That was like a second. You didn't even give me a chance. I had
Mhm.
everything ready. Lies.
Yeah.
I think like my brain just kind of has gotten used to you saying hello. So then at least I wait for that. But I can do everything else. So today we're going to be talking about the second part of the whole brainchild. I know that we owe y'all the second part, so we wanted to do that today. Yeah, so let's I guess
What's-
I was gonna
How
get into it, but
you're not asking how I am?
I know that's what I was like let's get into it, but I was like, wait, I haven't even
Just,
checked in to see how he's doing. I'm
are you still
sorry.
looking?
How are you today?
I'm doing good. A lot more self acceptance and where I'm at and the shit, and it just like removes a lot of the guilt that makes me not feel bad about it. I just a quick little story. I fucked up. I planted a tree again.
Oh,
I got someone started asking, like someone shared something with me, and I'm like, oh, I have a question if you don't mind me asking. And then I asked the question, and I was like, oh, and then my fucking brain is like anxious attachment instantly. I think that's what it is in the shit. And then I go into like, oh, you need to accept things for who they are. You're asking for change for you, not for them. You're doing all this shit, and as long as no, but it's them, like no, but it's you, and all this shit and the thing. And then I'm like, this is what anxious, what the attachments are. This is how this shit works. And then the person was like, because I explained about the parents, right? Like sometimes being there, sometimes not, and that's how you end up anxious. And then the person was like, "What do you mean? Like my parents have always been there for me." And then prior to that, I already had saying up to what you know now. So then I responded up to what you know now, and then the defense mechanism just blew the fuck up on them. And it was like, how the fuck are you gonna tell me my experiences, my parents, and all this shit and thing? And then I was after I was like, yeah, like I was like, okay, fuck it, well, whatever. Like I just said, oh, I gotta go already. Like I have to fucking put the girls to bed or whatever the fuck else. And then afterwards, I was like, fuck. Like you fucking completely overwhelm them again and try to throw the whole shit into there. But then I remember of like I was like feeling guilty, but then I was like, well, the fact that you almost now are so aware as soon as it happens, it's a beautiful thing. And it means you're growing and you're understanding it now that you're able to capture it like right when you're done. Like just the more practice is gonna be catching yourself like before you fucking do anything. So I didn't give myself any guilt. I felt like, well, she might feel overwhelmed, but it's still a seed. There's still something for her to think about. It might be
yeah.
more open minded the second time, even though I fucked it up, or whatever. Then I apologize the next day. I explain myself. I'm working on this shit. It's not I didn't mean any of that stuff. And she was the person was like cool with it. So it was like, all right, cool. So damn, that feels good to not guilt myself and be like, oh, vales verga, like you're a piece of shit because you fucked it up again or whatever. So then to just be like, yeah, I did what I could, and this is a good sign, and making
Mhm.
peace with it. And I'm like, okay, cool, I'm good.
Good. Good.
Yeah,
Awesome. That's good. Um,
yeah.
you
Long
didn't
story.
ask how I was, but I'll tell you how I am.
You didn't let me, como dices tú. You didn't give me a chance. Go ahead.
Ay, andamos bravos hoy.
Tell us.
Um,
Tell us.
I'm actually doing pretty well. I've been trying to like practice the four agreements more and more. Like I have been trying to be very, very, very aware of that, like all the time, like all the fucking time. And it has been really, really good. It's really hard. It's really hard to do it. My hair's really bothering me. It's really hard to do it. But when you're like aware and conscious of it, like constantly saying like, hey, this has nothing to do with you. This has nothing to do with you. Like, don't take it personal. Don't take it personal. Be impeccable with your words. Um, it and catching myself of like, is that the truth or is that you making an assumption? I'm like, okay. So I have been really, really trying to put that into practice because I promise you, everything that we talk about in here, we are not just talking out of our ass. Like, oh, let's just talk about like this. Like we actually try to practice these things
Hmm.
outside.
Hmm.
Um, like this morning I went on a run. I'm in a different city right now, because I have my marathon this weekend. So my sister and I went for a run this morning, and I was just feeling really, really like good. And I told her like I'm just gonna say good morning to like the world. Um, and I like started just saying like good morning, and some people answered, some people didn't, and then she'd be like, "Ugh, what a bitch. She didn't or whatever." And I'm like, it's okay. Like it has nothing to do with me. Like it's all right. Like I'm saying good morning. If maybe they didn't hear me, maybe they like for whatever, like having a bad day, like it doesn't matter. Like let's just do it. Like right. Like I'm just gonna keep doing it because that's nothing to do with me. Um and I was telling her about like the four agreements and stuff, and be like, "Oh, like this car didn't like wait for us to like cross." And then she's like, again, like, "What a bitch." And I'm like, "Well, I don't know. Maybe they didn't see us, right?" Like, but this part of trying to constantly, because that would have been me. That would have been me to be like, "Fucking asshole. They didn't wait. Like, they didn't say hi. I'm trying to like be nice." But this part of like what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna be like impeccable with my words. I'm trying to come from this place of love, and if people receive it, cool. If they don't, then it has nothing to do with me. I'm not going to take it personal. I'm not going to make assumptions as to why I didn't say good morning. But even like afterwards, my sister started saying good morning to people just like randomly, and I'm like, sister, look at you. She's like, I know. So it like that's part of it being like contagious too. Of and like I tell her, I'm like, you really need to read this book. She's like, I've heard of it. I've heard it's a really good book, and it really, really is. Um, so yeah, that's how I am. I'm good. I'm well.
Nice, 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 nice. Good to hear. Yeah, it's definitely hard, but
So
that's the
hard.
practice. That's the practice. That book, rereading it and listening to it, and we talked about it a little bit in Pablo's. But I went to the Bay Area, visited my mom. I saw my mom, had breakfast with her, shit like that. From that thing of understanding that no
Yeah.
matter what she does in the future, if negatively, is not nothing to do with me, and I'll take what I can get in the meanwhile. And cool, I'm at peace.
Yeah. Good. I'm glad.
Hmm.
I'm glad. All right. So then let's get into this parenting thing that we left off with. So just a little recap from last time. We talked about the left and the right brain, of things that you can do with your kiddos, connect and redirect. If this is your first time tuning in, you can go ahead and look for the previous episode on strategies on how to do gentle parenting, conscious parenting, responsible, respectful parenting. There's all kinds of names for it. Connect and
Hmm.
redirect, name it to tame it, engage, don't enrage, use it or lose it, and move it or lose it. Those are the ones that we did. And now we're going to continue with the other ones. We are going to be talking about integrating memory. So, um, helping kiddos integrate things that happened in the past with the present. So we are constantly activating. We had talked about like upstairs brain, downstairs brain, the prefrontal cortex, where that's where logic happens, and that is the part of the brain that you need to help kiddos develop. And integrating it with the limbic system or downstairs brain, which is where all of our instinctual responses, fears, memories live. Integrating both of those. So the next um, strategy, they it's called use the remote of the mind. So when kiddos have like an adverse experience or like a painful memory, we can help them go through like memory lane with the help of a control remote, so that they have the autonomy, they have the power and the freedom to share as much or as little as they want to share.
Hmm.
So with the internal remote, let's say for example, you talked about like when Mia, you were watching the MMA fight and there was like the nasty cut. I'm sure like maybe if you talk about that experience, she's going to be like, I don't want to talk about it. Or I don't know, she might be open to it. But if she were to be reluctant to talk about it, you can be like, hey, let's talk about it, and we can use your internal or mental remote control, where if you want, we can pause and take a break.
Hmm.
If there are parts that you're like, maybe when she first saw the cut, you can be like, we can fast forward that part. So we can go from like, oh, what were we doing before we you said that? Oh, we were like talking, whatever, like, okay. And then you don't want to talk about that part. Like, no, okay, let's fast forward. How did you feel after we talked about it? Oh, maybe like when you helped me understand, or like I was fine, like I was happy, like, okay. So then you help them pause, rewind, fast forward as they tell the story, so they can have control over their experience. So then they learn that, because usually we're used to just being like, oh, that happened, like let that in, like let the past be in the past, like don't talk about those painful experiences. So we don't help them to integrate it with the brain. So when we go into memory lane and we help them make sense of it, we are using both the upstairs brain, downstairs brain.
Hmm.
Questions?
No, that completely makes sense because we know the ability to be able to control and be respected in what you can and can do, and give the freedom to do that, and to feel it
Mhm.
and to share whatever you want to and whatever you can. This makes
Yes.
sense, right? How much? Because I just think of the opposite of forcing or not giving the time at all, and both of those
Hmm.
are like bad, right? Like not
Hmm.
not
Hmm.
forcing her to go through something she doesn't want to, or share something she's not ready to, or something that's not good.
Yeah.
Or also the other way of like just not giving her the time to, or the space to be able to share it, you know. So
Hmm.
it's just about respecting where they're at and what they want to share, and, you know. So that makes complete sense.
Yes. um The next one, it doesn't have to be painful stuff or situations where there are like big emotions. It's just remember to remember. So then you help kiddos exercise their memory,
Hmm.
um, by just like remembering things throughout the day. Like for example, if Mia goes to school, you can be like, hey, because many parents, they'll, like what I've noticed, or at least the ones I interact with, it was just like, how's your day? They're like, good, like cool. And then you go on about your day, and you don't actually like maybe like stop to sit with them and actually talk about their day. So then you can go such as like, okay, so tell me a little bit of like what happened throughout your day. Like after I dropped you off, like what happened after? Like, oh, maybe my teacher said hi, and then I said hi to my little friend, and then we started working on this. And then you can ask them like, oh, like what about this when you were working on that exercise? Like what was your favorite part about it? Well, I liked it because I drew a pumpkin, and instead of orange, I colored it purple. Like, oh, okay. So when you like colored it purple, how was that? Did that make you happy? And like, yeah, I was like really happy. So then you're helping them like throughout their day remember things, and maybe like tap into the emotions that they had throughout the day. So again,
Hmm.
that part of like integrating. Um, so that we help them more and more and more just to exercise that part of the memory.
Hmm. Yeah, for me that definitely works with our, and it's kind of become, and I don't think it's become, it's always been our thing because of like how I did it with Mia, where like that's our alone time. Like, and you can tell when I give her the time of like we're just walk, like we go for walks, and then it's just me and her, and she's just literally like dumping all this thing about her day, and she's like, oh, I colored this and I did this, and then my friend did this, and then all this and all that stuff, and then I want to do this, it would be cool, da, da, da. And you just like see her like talking about the day and all that stuff, and then I can see a direct correlation with her behavior when I'm constant with giving her that time.
Mm-hmm.
Like she just behaves a lot more better because she feels like,
Yeah.
I guess, heard, understood, and all that.
It's
And by giving her
connected.
the
Yeah.
time of day, it's like I can now like just tell her something, and like she will follow the direction a little bit better or a lot better. She is
Mm-hmm.
understanding like, okay, that, when once I give her the time, which just like everything, it just makes sense, right? You give
Yeah.
her the time to process and give her the time to feel, and then she'll be able to be like, okay, and understand, or just feel like, not like she's left out, that then maybe I have her act out for the attention. So
Mm-hmm.
just giving her the time to be able to talk, and that I can definitely see how it's beneficial for her, and then for me too, because I'm learning about her more, more and more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you're doing it, right, she's like, oh, then the friend, and then I did this and I did that. Like you can help her to, if something catches your attention, something that might be significant, of tapping
Mhm.
into that emotional part.
Yeah.
Um, right? I was saying like, oh, like you mentioned that like you talked to your friend, or maybe your friend talk like play with somebody else. Like, how did that make you feel?
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
so that we learn to, because many times, like I am so surprised at how many people come to therapy, and then I will ask them how does that feel, what emotion is that. One, how many of them are not able to recognize even what emotion they are experiencing, right? Most people, that is one of the why we have the rule of like we don't say good in here, because that is what we're used to. How are you? I'm
Yeah.
good. How are you? Fine. How are you? Right? Like those are just default words, but we don't actually stop and sit down and be like, how am I actually?
Hmm.
Right. So then this is a way that you are teaching your daughter to be like, this specific moment, how does that feel for you? What emotion is
Hmm.
that? Labeling it. Because
Hmm.
then that is literally the part where we are connecting this experience with your friend, with the part of just telling a story, right? Cause and effect sequence, whatever, it's in the prefrontal cortex. But then you're like, how does that make you feel? Right? Like, oh, actually, that made me feel really sad. That made me feel really happy. So then you are bringing those emotions, but also putting a label to them.
Yeah. You're becoming
Oh,
conscious of it, right? So then you're
mhm.
able to then know what you're feeling and how things affect you and all that stuff. Um, yeah, I do ask her that periodically, and the crazy shit is that Aaliyah doesn't need me to ask her. Daddy, don't talk to me. I'm mad right now. I'm okay. I don't want to talk to you right now. I'm mad. Like, oh, this is it was like she when she comes crying because of whatever reason, she just pours her fucking heart out. Mia did this, or like mommy did this, or this happened to me, and it makes me really, really sad. And the thing, and she's just able to express it like that, like fully crying and telling you how sad and how frustrating it is, or how angry she is. And she'll be like, I'm angry right now, and stomps and shit like that. So we're able to see it a lot more with her in that way, that she just expresses exactly how she feels, and she knows because she's also labeling it too, like this is that, this is
Yeah,
frustrating, or this is really sad, or yeah.
yeah.
So yeah,
It,
definitely
it is very
that
beautiful
you can see,
too.
because that's a big issue, right?
That's
Because
what.
I think that's the big issue, because I think that's the big issue, and that's why we end up so like we have so much problems in the future, because we're not allowed to feel, and then we are not we're not taught what the feelings are, what the emotions are,
Mm-hmm.
what to do with
Mm-hmm.
them, and how to solve them. Because how the fuck are they going to tell us what to do with them if they don't even let us feel it?
Yep.
Like, so now
Yeah.
it's as a parent, like I try to take a step back and realize they're mad. Let them be mad. Mia's mad. Alia's mad. Let them be mad. Let them be sad. It's okay. You know,
Yeah.
it's okay to do these things. It's okay for you to do that. Um, Yeah. Just a little side note of the shit that I thought about. I just recently had Mia's my 7-year old's student teacher or parent teacher conference.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I asked her the morning of, how's it gonna, how do you think you're gonna do? She's like, bad. I'm gonna do bad. I know that I'm gonna do bad. And I was like, well, you're not a bad kid or anything. Like, how would you know you're gonna do bad? But she'd just be like, I just know, I'm gonna do bad. So then we went afterwards, and she went with me. She was sitting on the corner. So academically, fucking a genius. Like, she already passed all the tests that she's supposed to take at the end of the year, and the year just started like 2 months ago. But then she said that she has a lot of trouble staying still and focusing and all these things and all that. So then afterwards, she was like, I was just told her in front of the teachers, like, hey, we gotta have some respect. Someone's talking to you, someone's taking the time to help you out. You gotta be respectful. Try to be respectful in all those ways. And then before she goes to sleep, she's like, Daddy, so how did I do? Like, literally, as she's hugging me before she goes to bed. So how did I do? Bad, huh? And I was like, no, you're not bad. There's nothing in the world that you could ever do that will say that you're a bad kid to me. Nothing. And just remember that everybody has different challenges, and some kids might not be doing as well academically, but they listen, or they're able to sit still. Because one of the things, the good thing, and I take a reflection of myself, the same thing that the teacher said. She says she's able to ask questions and tell you exactly how she feels. That's what the teacher said. Like she'll tell you she's curious and she'll ask questions and she'll say and very opinionated in how she feels and shit like that, you know. But then I explained to her, you're not bad. You just have the things that you have to work on, you know. Because to this to remove that very black and white thing idea of it, and I literally like when I told her that I caught it, and I told Celia, my wife, afterwards, I was like, you have no idea how much I just fucking peace I put her to know there's not a single fucking thing in the world she can do that is gonna ever see her as a bad person in my eyes. Like
Yeah.
the freedom to just be like I could be myself. I don't give no matter what the fuck I do. My dad is gonna not judge me or see me in that way. You know, it's kind of
Hmm.
like a thing that it has almost nothing to do with it, but it is parenting. But the power of that shit to then the judgment that she was having within herself and to remove that shit once again, because then that's how we not allowing to say that, to feel that is bad, or not giving it the time like you were saying, we
Hmm.
process that part of it, and it makes a world of a difference. Because then
Yeah.
it's like what did I just fucking say at the beginning of the episode? Is like I finally forget, I finally starting to accept and not judge myself for the mistakes that I
Hmm.
make, you know. So then
Yeah.
it literally it, even preventing from those things to build up on her that cost me so much pain and trouble for myself, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I think like the fact that you are taking taking the time, right? Because she already, if we connect it back to the four agreements, she already has made an agreement with herself that she's bad or that she did
Yeah.
something bad,
Hmm.
right? Hence why when you go into the teacher conference, then it's like I'm gonna do bad. Like I
Yeah.
already know it,
You know what was
right?
funny? What?
Huh?
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry, I'll wait.
That like how that shows you that we don't need to be old for those agreements to be in our heads already. She's already had it made an agreement from somewhere that if she's jumping, if she doesn't stay still, then she has this energy, then that must mean she's bad,
Hmm.
right? And her wanting to like that assumption that she made when she's like, so how did I do? I did bad, huh?
Yeah.
But then you with that helping her fight that agreement, challenge that agreement, um that that doesn't mean she's a bad kiddo. That doesn't mean that she's doing anything bad just because she has like all of this energy. It's just something that she needs to work on or not, right? Because if you're saying she just started school, she already passed everything that she needs to pass for the fucking year. She might be fucking bored.
Yeah. That's what I was gonna tell you before I cut you off. Celia was like, because I told Celia because I was the one that went to the thing. She's like, oh yeah, she said she's like doing good academically and she's just disrupting shit like that. And then Celia goes, isn't that what we want? And I was like, yeah. Part of me is like, yeah, teacher, go fuck yourself. Have her teach the class. Like you're not challenging her enough, you're not pushing her enough. If she's able to fuck around 95% of the time and then 5% of the time she does her work and fucking kills it and doesn't miss a single question, then maybe you're the one that needs to do some other shit and
Honey,
challenge
you're
her
the
to
problem.
figure out. Yeah. Or how do we, well, that's the issue, right? Like why once again, why do we have to have them fit in into this shit? Like she's a kid. She wants to fucking play. She wants to run around.
Right.
Like she's doing her shit. Que te valga madre the things that she's doing or not outside of that shit. You know, she has her shit taken care of. The only
Hmm.
part that I would agree with the teacher is that she's disrupting the other kids that are
Everybody
struggling
else.
academically. So that's the shit that I'm like, okay, yeah, like that I understand, you know.
Then give her something more challenging, right? Because again, that part of like fitting into the box, because at the end of the day, right, like if we're talking about a lot of what we talk about here is like disrupting the system, decolonizing our mind. If we think about it, the school system, how it's set up right now, is part of that, right? It's part of
Mhm,
that colonization. It's part of that mindset. So
mhm,
if we can't challenge or disrupt that when we are trying to also make our kiddos fit into that, right? So um then maybe talking to the teacher of like, okay, if she's doing okay academically but she's like disrupting the class, what can we do in an effort to challenge her, right? So it's like a win-win situation. How do I challenge her? How do you as a teacher are going to challenge her so that way she can also be focused on something else and she's not disrupting your class,
mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Because it's almost like we have to um I don't want to say that. Hold on, I'm trying to be mindful of my words. I'm trying to be impeccable with my words. Almost like come down to everybody else's level, and then that is how, that's exactly how it was meant to be, right? Because the school system right now is to create labor, right?
Hmm.
Just like um so like the assembly line people, and that is not necessarily what we want with your kiddo.
Hmm.
So what are we going to do to make sure that she's also growing while the other ones are growing?
Yeah. Yeah. How do you challenge and how do you do that? Because I think that was the same, honestly, that was the same issue with me. So I'm seeing like her, I'm seeing myself in her because that was my shit. Not, school was not hard for me, what the fuck so ever. I didn't have the motivation to do it, but I remember when I started changing like my senior year and we started doing our senior paper, like I fucking finished it in a tenth of the time that everybody else finished it. And my teacher was like, "What the fuck? You already done?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's fucking here. It's already done." Mind you, I had like a 1.8 GPA. So it was just I wasn't interested. And when I did it, it was the same thing in every class. It was just like, okay, cool, this is fucking whack. And didn't have the motivation to do it. But like I always
Hmm.
felt like I was smart. And when I put my mind into something, I would figure it out. When I paid attention, it would be easy for me to understand the whole shit, you know? So yeah, part of me feels the same way. And like I felt about this because this has been the feedback every year that we get from the teachers. And it's like, well, who gives a shit? She's doing good. Like do some
Who's
other shit, you know? Because when I don't mind that we're not going strictly to what the book is talking about because it's still we're talking about parenting, right? And the shit
Mhm.
with the kids and shit. But she's already getting into the habit of like the curiosity within
Yeah.
herself and then within shit. She like, what the fuck did she ask me yesterday? She asked me some kind of question on some random shit. And then I said, "Oh, I
Mhm.
don't know, baby." And I didn't even think of pulling the phone to ask ChatGPT. So she's like, "Oh, ask ChatGPT." So then we pulled out the thing. I asked for it, and then I played it back, and then so she could hear. And she's like, "Okay, cool." Like she's asking questions about black holes and white holes and what is a dying star, what happens when a star dies, and do this shit. You know, like she's just asking some random shit that she sees and then like putting together in there. You know, so like yeah, she's probably fucking bored if she's able to do all this shit. Then and then you ask her to sit down. So yeah, it's very important that we don't have them fit in. You know.
Mhm.
Another thing that she said is like she draws in everything, and it's like an artist, and it's just always illustrating everything. And yeah,
Mm.
all her math, it could be like math problems. Y tienen pinches estrellas y pinches fucking like skies and trees and everything on math. Well, then that just proves to you again. She finishes her shit, and she's like, "What do I do now?" And
Yeah.
she's just there fucking doodling and doing all this kinds of shit for it, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but yes, this is it's important that we think about that. And I've had that mentality for, like I said, since the beginning of like, well, she's supposed to do she's doing good and the rest of the shit is just normal, and I try to have them fit in, you know, because I can think that if I didn't have this little bit of knowledge and wisdom about that and hadn't put so much thought into that before, like you can see where I'll get frustrated and start punishing her for not paying attention in
Paying
class, and like,
attention.
I'm gonna go to your teacher saying this and that, and then making her feel bad, and then like almost reassuring the agreement that because you can't sit still you're bad, and now it makes you, you know, feel bad about yourself instead of saying, well,
Hmm.
it's okay, you're different.
Yeah.
And I don't know if people have seen it, but I saw like one thing of like, you can't, it was like animals, right? Like it's an illustration of animals, and there's like a fish, I think, failing class at school, the school for animals, because the fish was getting graded on how well it can climb a tree, right? So that just reminds us that you can't fucking have a one shoe fits all for it.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
That
And there
is
has to be another
true.
person.
Yes.
Hmm. Yeah. Hit us with the next one after that long derail.
Yes. Like, neither one of us reeled each other in. We were just like,
Yeah, but like I said, it's fine. It's parenting stuff,
it's
and
still
it can help with
parenting.
you. Yeah.
It's still part of it, right? Like and tying everything that we talk about in here, like it is, that's exactly what we're like doing, tying those little um like making those connections to like past episodes and stuff, like, yeah, because this is part of parenting. It's not like, okay, with all these strategies you're going to be then a respectful parent, and you're like, it's an all and all be all type of thing, right? Like these are things that also tie into the whole parenting thing. So it is
Hmm.
okay for us to go on
Yeah.
those little tangents.
Even if it
um,
wasn't, it's our fucking podcast, so who cares? Just in case y'all forgot. The people that listen to us fuck with us regardless, and they probably appreciate this conversation anyways, you know.
that is true. I will say that. um, okay, now we are going into integrating the many parts of ourselves. So one of the things that, mind you, bear with me because I read this book a long time ago, and I just have like the strategies written down. One of the things that it talks about that I unfortunately don't have it right now is like the wheel of awareness. So it talks about how like your awareness is a little bit of everything, right? Of like sensations, thoughts, emotions, all of these things. And you're looking for it, aren't you?
Yeah. Go ahead, keep going.
Um, and sometimes we get stuck on one point of that, one particular point of that wheel of awareness, and we can help the kiddos take their focus off of that and be like, okay, let's focus. What else can we focus on? Um, so that is when we bring in reintegrate.
Is this it?
Yes,
Hmm.
yes. Um, so then maybe like for going back to the teacher parent conference, maybe she was really stuck on that thought of like, I'm bad, right? And she couldn't see everything else. So then taking her away from that, one of the things that we can do is one of the strategies. There's three in integrating these parts. The first one is the let the cloud of emotions roll by, right? So then if maybe she's very stuck on the like the thoughts, like, okay, like what about if this thought were to be true, you are bad. Like how does that make you feel? Oh, maybe I'm sad because I really want to be good or whatever. Like, okay, then picture the sky and picture the many clouds, and in one there's your thoughts of like, oh, I did bad. In another one, there's the sad feelings. In another one, there is like maybe memories where I thought I was bad, right? And watch them pass by. They're just passing by in the sky, and they're gonna go away whenever they're ready,
Hmm.
right? So there, we're we're letting that we're letting that go, um, and and that's with anything, with any like memory, physical sensation, goal, whatever, like all of those things, like we can help them choose like, okay, right now you're very stuck on this like bad memory. Okay, what else can we do right now? Maybe we can talk about like your goals, your dreams, right? And it doesn't mean that you're going to distract them. You're just going to be there and offer them a broader perspective, because sometimes we get like hyper focused on this one thing, right? So
Hmm.
it is like, okay, let's expand it a little bit, see what else it is that we can do in this situation. Um, so yes, when kiddos have feelings, uncomfortable feelings, reminding them that everything is temporary. So then helping them with the clouds of emotion kind of roll by.
Hmm.
Uh, the other one, it's an acronym, is SIFT, stands for sensations, images, feelings, and thoughts. So then when we are talking about one experience that they had, maybe it was an uncomfortable experience. So what we do is we help them um, make sense of them by like asking them like, okay, what is your body feeling right now? Oh, maybe I feel it like kind of when Aaliyah comes like, and I'm really sad because like Mia did this and that, da, 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 right? Like when in those like little venting sessions, you can help her like, okay, like you're really sad right now. Yes. Okay, where in your body is this sad? Oh, maybe I feel it in my heart. Okay. Yeah. So is that, does it feel like little or like apachurrado or like big? How does that feel? Oh, it feels like maybe like very squished. Like, okay, so this sadness is in your heart and it's very squished. Like, yeah, like, okay. Um, so when you see that squished heart, like, what images come to your mind? Oh, and maybe it's just like a sad face. Oh, okay. So a sad face. Okay, that makes sense. What color is that sad face? Oh, maybe it's purple. Okay. Thank you so much for letting me know. And what about some thoughts? What are you thinking about when you're sad? Oh, maybe that Mia shouldn't have done this. Like, yeah, maybe we didn't like that, huh? So then it's like helping them integrate everything, right? Like the whole experience, so they're not stuck in just like one area, whether it's a
Mhm.
thought, sensation, and emotion. Um, yes, so helping them kind of like package everything up, like a whole experience. I see
Yeah.
like your wheels turning.
Yeah, I was just thinking like it makes complete sense because I didn't know any of this before that panic attack in 2018, right? So I didn't know how to
Hmm.
define it. I didn't pay attention. I didn't know how my thoughts and all the feelings and what to do with them and how to even feel them or what to do with that stuff. So for 28 years of my life or something, I was just like on autopilot without paying attention to any of this, right? And now because I've been doing this of becoming more conscious and more aware of my feelings and everything, I'm in the complete opposite way now, where I'm able to catch myself usually very quickly. Like I just told somebody yesterday, is like I feel something and I'm like, something's off. But then I distract myself somehow, don't pay attention to right away. But the most that I can spend with something being wrong with me is like 5 days. Like after 5 days, I'm like, okay, I have to fucking address this. I gotta figure out what the fuck is going on. I have to pay attention to that. So because now I'm much more aware and much more sensitive to feeling, that I'm able to tell there's something off, so then there's something to address and fix. Right. So you can see if we never learn how to actually explain what we're feeling, give it a name to the emotion that we're feeling, to like make sense of what it is, then how can we fix it? How can we address it? How can we accept it? How can we
Hmm.
change it without having that? So that's how, that's what could happen as adults if we're not taught to that. And this is the whole point of this, because for you to be able to, like I said, either change it or accept it or love whatever it is that you're going through, first you have to know that you're going through something. First you have to be aware of the emotion, and
That
then
something's
you can do that. So that's what we're trying to teach our kids, or that's what this book is talking about, making them aware and giving that space and saying, teach them what this is, so that then in the future you feel sadness and you're like, oh shit, I'm sad. What the fuck is going on here? Let me explore this feeling. And you
yeah.
just don't are like on autopilot, not aware of all the different sensations and feelings and all the shit that you're going through, that then just you don't end up doing anything with them. You just kind of like, you're not even aware that that's what it is.
Hmm.
So having that awareness.
Yeah.
So yeah, being that sensitive to it. And now, like I said, now it's like something's off. I'm like, something's off, and it just
Hmm.
feels a lot of times. I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes it feels hard that you're just something's off, and then like fuck, otra vez, something's off again, and something's off again. But then that means like there's still more healing to do. So at the same time, be patient with yourself and not do that shit, because the more sensitive you are, the more pain or the more things you have to either accept, change, or just let be or whatever. Um,
But
it,
the thing is with that, like offering a different perspective, like you're right, that that big awareness of like constantly um feeling like something is off, the more we are aware of it, the sooner we can address it and the
mhm,
faster we can let go of it,
yeah,
right? So
yeah,
we don't um no se hacen como estos like boulders that we at some point we had talked about, right? Like, and then you're carrying all that shit. Like, um, the day prior to coming here, um, I had a conversation, like a difficult conversation with somebody, and it was a hard conversation. But then after we were able to like resolve the conflict, right? Like, there was this sense of wanting closeness with that person, of because that's one of the things I think right now, and I mean it applies to parenting too. Like, maybe when there is a rupture of some kind and you go and resolve it and repair it, then the natural part is connection, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to connect with that person, but it wasn't possible in that moment. It was not possible. um so I got really sad about it. So then I got home and I was telling my mom, like, I want to cry. And then she's like, why? And I'm like, I don't know, but I knew, right? And I was like, and she's like, maybe are you nervous because we're like leaving tomorrow and because your race is coming up? And I'm like, yeah, but I also talked to so and so. And she's like, oh. And I'm like, yeah. I talked to them, and after talking to them, like, I'm sad because I wanted to connect with them, but I know that's not a possibility. Um, so then I cried. So then I cried. I allowed myself to cry, and then that was that.
Mm-hmm.
Ta-da! Right? Like, I noticed that something was off. Right? Like, I acknowledge of like, I am sad because I'm wanting this, and right now I can't have it. Okay, so let's cry it out and
Mm-hmm.
verbally express it to my mom. And once I did, and once I like cried, then we're like, okay, let's move on because I gotta pack and I gotta catch a flight in the morning. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so then we don't hold on to those things, and it is so much easier, I think, for you to acknowledge that there's something going on, feel it in the moment, acknowledge it, and then like
Mm-hmm.
moving on, rather than, because I could have stayed with that until now if I didn't
Mm-hmm.
address it.
Yeah. It just sometimes I completely agree with you. But it sometimes I guess it could be overwhelming, right? That you become so sensitive that you're like, oh shit, now I have to address this, and I'm like, puta madre, now I gotta address this, and I do this
Yes.
shit. It's like, when am I just gonna fucking just be able to chill? But then the thing is, like,
Never.
that work is beautiful, like you said, because then you're actually at a true peace, not the pretend peace that you give yourself by neglecting something, by distracting yourself. Like, you're actually at peace with it once you put in the work, and then just accepting that that's the fucking journey.
Yeah.
So why are you fighting the fact, like, this is what it's going to be like, this is what it is, now that you're sensitive, now that you're aware of your emotions and what you feel, and all this shit. So, like, just accept that that's what it is.
Yeah.
Be like, okay, cool. And then that's the part of it, right, of not getting overwhelmed with anything. It's like, oh fuck, this sadness or this fucking anxiety or this concern or this whatever, not to get caught up where now you're overwhelmed with all this shit. Now it's like, okay, this is what I'm feeling now, and this is where I'm at. So be cool with that and accept that part of it, and be like, okay, it's just have the awareness to be like, it's just another feeling, it's just another emotion, it's just another thought, it's just another part of the journey, and I'll be fine. And then not go get so caught up into like, this is the fucking end of the world because of this. That's also a big part of it, just accepting that part.
Hmm.
Why are you gonna
Yeah.
fight it, right? Like Pablo told us, why the fuck we gotta fight it? Just accept where you're at, and this is the reality of it, and go from there.
Yeah, that part is really hard. Like, actually accepting that you because I've always been a very like deeply feeling human. Like, I've always been that way.
Hmm.
So it is kind of difficult when we are taught to repress that part of ourselves, right? Um and then when, like, literally I could go, like, even this morning, like, I went for a run. I'm in a new city, and I'm looking at everything, just like architecture is so different, like there's so many trees, the weather is different, and experiencing all of those things, like, it just, even right now, like, I'm not actually there, but I'm like, es que bonito. Like, I was running with my sister, and I kept telling her, mira que bonito, mira que bonito, mira que bonito, like, just like the happiness and the fulfillment of being able to be in another city, being able to see different nature, being able to see different architecture, like that just fills my heart so much with so much happiness. And people can look at me and be like, it's a fucking house, it's a fucking tree, like it's not that serious. But to me, because I am a deeply feeling human, like the happiness that I experience is like so immense and so huge. And that in itself can be overwhelming, right? Because even though it's like quote unquote a good emotion, a good feeling, a
Mhm.
yummy one, a lot of people don't understand it because they're like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Why are you crying right now?
Mhm.
um so it is a lot. Like it is a lot when it comes to like sadness, because when I'm sad, I'm fucking sad. When I'm angry, I'm fucking angry. When I'm happy, I'm fucking happy. Like all of the emotions I feel very fucking deeply. And that can be very overwhelming. That can definitely be overwhelming. And it also gives me an opportunity to experience life in a way that many other humans can't. And I think that is such a beautiful gift that I have, such a privilege that many don't get to experience.
Mhm. Definitely. It's not. Yeah, it's a lot, but at the same time, like I don't see it as a lot, right? Because of the same thing. Because I am understanding of you. Like I know you, and I understand you, and know where you come from, and I also understand and know myself to be like, oh, that's cool, and I won't take it like the same shit. If I was around you more often and I see you with all this fucking feelings, I'd be like, okay, cool. She's allowing herself to feel and she's happy with the shit. And even if she's mad for whatever fucking reason, she has the right to be mad. And I'm not gonna take it personal. It's just whatever she's going through the shit right now. So then it's easy to understand and it's easy to know. But could be the opposite, right? When if you that proves the point again, because and it's funny we keep touching on the other episode, but that proves the point, right? If you are your full self and I react negatively to you, it's not because of you, it's because of me. Because I haven't put in the fucking work to be able to understand that part of myself and then accept you for whatever the fuck it is that you're doing or how you're behaving or whatever you're feeling or whatever you're doing, you know? If I can't do that shit, then again it goes back to that it's all to me. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like once again the shit that you struggle with, you were never too much. Other people didn't have enough.
I know. I'm working
Right.
on it. I'm working on it.
Right? So it was literally that because it
Yeah.
wasn't. It's something that I tell my client all the time. Like his parents got divorced and he noticed that his mom started treating him like shit after the divorce, and I'm like, cool. Let's pay attention and focus on that. Your mom was emotionally overwhelmed, and you can make a connection that she started treating you badly since then. So I'm like, bro, it's not you. It was her. She's the one that was so emotionally overloaded that she couldn't even fucking have the patience to do anything for you and told you to fuck off and told you you were bad when all you wanted was attention and love and all this shit. So it was never you. It has never been you. It's the people. It was your mom. It was like your dad. It was whoever was around you that because of all this shit that they had weren't able to provide what you needed, that it was perfectly normal for you to be asking or for you to be doing. It was
Mm-hmm.
them. It
Yeah.
was them at that shit, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whew.
So
All
yes,
right.
it's the beauty in allowing and teaching to feel and accepting at the same time once we do
Mhm.
that, you know.
Yes.
Because I don't take it personally. I don't, even with the girls, back to the parenting stuff, even with the girls, I no longer I no longer take it personal, and I'm trying to teach them already that it's them, like within each other. You get me? I'm trying to teach them that already at 4 and 7 years old to be like, Aliyah did this shit. Mia did this. I'm like, no, 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 no. You're the one that's mad. Like, you're the one that has to pay attention to why you're mad
Mhm.
and try to
Mhm.
take a deep breath at the other one telling you something else. It's like you're the one that's doing that. It's not her what she's doing, you know, so that they kind of have an idea of it already.
Yeah.
And also, uh, it's still parenting, but also just think also relieving my oldest daughter of the responsibility of the younger one.
Mm.
Like there's something I've been telling her a lot lately. It's like, hey, don't worry about it. She's not your kid. It's not your decision. Yes, you can take care of her. You can do that stuff. But like literally what I'm learning, let her ask you for the advice, let her ask you for the help. And then I'm also your dad and your mom, and we're paying attention that she's safe. So trust us that we know what we're doing and that she's safe,
Mhm.
and it's not for you to carry that burden of like, oh, I have to look out for my little sister, all that stuff. Like, no, just take care of yourself, and whenever she needs you, she'll reach out to you, and that's it, and do the best with that you can with that stuff, but removing the pressure of it, because
Mhm.
that's always the thing that happens with the oldest. It's like somehow we give the pressure to help out.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah, I understand. All right. After our second big tangent, there, bringing it back to integrating the awareness, the mindfulness. So it takes us to our next exercise or strategy for today, the fifth one, which is exercise mindsight. Mindsight practices are essentially their mindfulness meditation
Hmm.
um, to help kiddos calm themselves, focus on their attention. There is a website where you can go. Um, I just sent it to you,
Oh.
and um, it has a mindful exercise on there by Dr. Dan Siegel, who is the author of this book, with somebody else, and Tina Payne. Yes, Daniel Siegel and Tina Payne. They're both doctors. So the breath awareness is the part of the mindsight practices. So if you're a parent, you can go review a little bit of like how this relates to the wheel of awareness, and do those breath exercises with your kiddo. That is Dan Siegel right there.
Mhm.
That's the man. Um, yes. So mindfulness also with your kiddos, and I mean, there's YouTube. You can always just put 5 little body scan meditation, 5 minute wind down, whatever the case may be, so you can
Mhm.
help your kids integrate that part of mindfulness practices.
Mhm.
Um, okay, and
Yeah.
then our last little two, the all of the other ones, the 10 that we have talked about between the last episode and this one, we were talking about how we help the kid come up with a whole brain. The next two, it is integrating the self with other people, because we are mammals, we are social beings. So we are literally wired to be we in community. So part of creating whole brain kiddos is also by doing it within with community, with interaction, so we can create positive relationships. So the second to last, or first to last, whatever, la penúltima, it is enjoying each other, building some fun into the family so they can, through those experiences, then they can feel connected. And then if we feel connected, then our ability to use our brain is better. Um, and yeah, just building connections with people that they are with the most, even with those little walks that you're talking about with Mia, right? Like, you're already practicing of enjoying each other and helping her in those moments connect again, the upstairs brain, downstairs brain. And
Mhm.
last but not least, it is connecting through conflict. Many people, most of us believe that conflict is a bad thing. So we avoid it at all cost. Like, oh, I just don't want to fight. I don't want to argue. I don't want to get into it, whatever. Um, but that is because we weren't taught how to conflict. Um, so instead of looking at it as something to avoid with your kid, view it as an opportunity to teach your kiddos something, to teach ourselves something, because that is an essential part of life. Conflict is an essential part of growth, both individually and in relationships. We need to, because we interact with humans. Unless you want to be a hermit and live in the woods, you're still gonna have a conflict anyway with internally. Um, but but yes, making amends, like I was talking about, like me having conflict with this human the other day, and like after we're able to talk about it, that's when closeness comes in. um so use conflict as a way to connect with your children. That's all I got.
Yawning for some reason. Yeah, so it's about understanding each other. Like somehow I knew this before any of this shit.
Hmm.
Like the feeling and the more understanding and the connection that you get after
Yes.
understanding each other or having that conflict, it's what it does. Like conflicts resolve to make the relationship stronger within
So
yourself
much.
or within other people, you know.
Hmm.
So it's definitely important that you do that because it's I tried it with somebody that I knew of not sharing anything, and like I was because I'm anxious attachment obviously, and I want to resolve a lot of shit, and I'm pushy and I'm challenging. So taking the thing of being like, okay, I'm not gonna say anything, and I'm just like, okay, I'm not gonna say anything, and I'm like waiting, and I'm like, this shit fucking sucks. Like, what the fuck is this? Like, there has to be a balance of like me maybe not hurting your feelings when I say it and paying attention and being mindful of how I present the issue, but this shit of not saying anything, like, this just sucks, and it just like creates um it creates animosity or it creates problems because you're not being your authentic self and your feelings are hurt or something's bothering you, and then you don't address it, so then it's just there in the back of your mind and you can't be who you really are because you have this thing that you need to resolve and shit like that, or that you want to resolve, or that you want to talk about, or that it's there, you know. So there's definitely a balance, and it did teach me to be more careful, right? To be more mindful of how I say and how I do things and things like that. But it's definitely like I rather much I much rather I still believe that I much rather be anxious than avoidant because it sucks to be fucking avoidant. Like I can understand how well after trying not saying anything, I told my wife, holy shit, like you did this shit for like your entire life. Like how the fuck did you even manage to fucking do that? Like how are you still literally how are you still alive
You're like,
holding
how do you
all these,
live?
yeah, how do you fucking hold all this shit in and not say anything, to not have a conflict, to not have this shit? Like how do you function? Like it would just be almost damn near impossible, I would think. And again, understand from my perspective, it's just fucking bizarre, right? But like I said, she does, and she's always taught me. And then also not trying this thing of not saying anything did teach me a lot of like, okay, you have to. There's the healthy thing is in the middle somewhere, and you just
Yeah.
have to be mindful of how you communicate. And not say also from my perspective, everything that comes to your fucking mind is also not okay, and you're not mindful of whatever the other person might be going through.
Yeah, and that was gonna be like my question. Why did it go from like one end to the other for you, of like just sitting there and not saying anything?
I tried it. I wanted to try it.
Oh,
I
okay.
was like, I've never done this in my fucking life, and I don't know what outcome's gonna happen. But here, let me put myself through a new experience of not saying a fucking thing, not saying anything, and just keeping my fucking feelings to myself. I literally told Celia that I was gonna try that. I was like, I'm gonna try not saying anything and see what happens. I'm not
Mm.
gonna say anything that whatever is bothering me, whatever is not okay, whatever I feel, whatever my feelings, I'm just gonna keep them to myself as an attempt to see if something else happens. If something what happens out of curiosity, because I've never done this, and maybe see if it teaches me something of not saying anything.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Couldn't be me.
Yeah, I tried. I tried. But yeah, then when I said something, it was very. It did take a couple of months, I want to say, and then I was just like, okay, I gotta say something, and I said it. But I was very mindful, make sure I was coming with a proper intention, not of wanting to like make sure that I wasn't being angry, and I was like explaining what was happening or what we needed to address or all those things.
Mhm.
It was much
Mhm.
more welcoming rather than telling that like person, like the other person that I talked to, yeah, your experience ain't shit, and it's a belief of what you have right now. You don't know shit. You don't know nothing about your fucking life. Let me tell you about your life. As right or as wrong as I might be, that's pretty fucking harsh, right? So
Yes. Yes. Yes, it is.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
That's all. That's all I got. That's all we got today.
yeah. So this whole fucking book is about letting your children fucking feel and letting them and showing them and teaching them that it's okay to feel and how to label it and how to um, address that stuff because that's a like we said already, it's a big reason why we struggle as adults. And if you can't let your kid feel, that means that you have been able to feel yourself, and then you're judging your kid based on yourself because you don't think it's okay to feel.
Yes.
So
Yes. Yes.
whenever your
L-
kids piss you the fuck off, it's you getting pissed off by yourself. It's not the fucking kids, it's you, motherfuckers.
Yes. Yes. Lo que te choca, te checa. So if
Hmm.
your kids trigger you, look at your little self. What within me is getting triggered by this mini me? Because it usually has something to do with you. And remind yourselves
Hmm.
that your kid is a whole different human being from you. They don't belong to you. They don't need to think like you do. You don't need to control them.
Hmm.
Your job is to guide them. And at the end of the day, even when you guide, they might make the mistakes anyway, and that is okay
Hmm.
because they are a whole different human being.
Yep.
Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Okay.
Whenever you're struggling with something, go listen to that podcast with Pablo. And all your fucking problems are solved right there. Anytime you're struggling with anything, go back to that. It just all goes back to the attachment, right? And accepting your kid for
Yes.
whatever they are or they're not, and not put any pressure for them to be something because then they turn into something they don't want to be. And then they end up fucking depressed and all this shit because you didn't allow them to be themselves. So let them fucking be. Let them
Yes.
be. Let them. I literally tell Mia, you don't want to listen to me, that's okay. You're gonna choose to learn the hard way, or you're gonna choose to learn your own, that's fine too. Just I'm just my job is to let you know that the choice is yours and go figure it out and do whatever you want. And
Yes.
yes, yep, that is very true. Like I was talking shit about girls with Stanley cups. Mia went to the store, and when I went to the Bay Area, and she has a fucking Stanley cup. But then I
Nice.
literally was like, "Don't say anything. Don't say anything." She's trying to fit in. She's being herself. You can go fuck yourself with your ideas of what a Stanley cup is or it isn't. And if
Mhm.
she's happy with it, fuck off and let her be. So I didn't say a single thing about it, you know. And before I would have been saying like, "What do you want this shit? What does it mean? Whatever."
Yes.
Cool. Mindful Podcast Living at gmail.com for any of your feedback, anything that you guys have to say. Also, go like and subscribe and review and do all that shit. That shit helps.
Yes.
I mean,
Please
I'm
do.
fine if it's just the 30 of you that watches. That's completely fine. Cool for the rest of our life, right? Because I saw a video that said you're sad about 15, 20, 30 likes, but if you had 15, 30 compliments in real life, you would be fucking amazed, right? So if all 30 of you will be sitting together, me and Norma were like, all right, we're gonna have a podcast and live recording, and 30 of you showed up, we will be fucking amazed.
Woo!
We'll be like, what the fuck? So thank you. Thank you to everybody that listens and take care of
Yes. Thank
yourselves, and
you.
you're not alone.
Put our
Reach out.
thing. Put our thing.
Oh, it's right here. Go ahead. Read it.
Our goal is to create a safe space for exploring mental health topics, sharing stories, learning strategies for well being, fostering empathy, understanding growth, and most importantly, love.
Love, amor,
Are we going to
comprensión y
say our
ternura.
tagline too
Go
that
ahead.
we came up with? The
Hmm.
tagline? Or is that
Hmm.
just for social media?
Say it.
And
Go ahead.
remember, our beautiful listeners, in order to grow, you need to let go.
Peace.
Bye.